Hello everyone, it's Josh for Digital Delirium. If you're like me, you absolutely love the Elder Scrolls. If you're like me, you probably poured tons and tons of hours into Morrowind and Skyrim and Oblivion, and you're eager for the next entry in the series. If you're like me, you are probably very excited for this year's E3. Also, if you're like me, you're probably very excited for Bethesda's E3 conference. Only to be severely disappointed by not just the lack of a new Elder Scrolls game, but the fact that they really only had 2 new games to show off at this conference period. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure why they even bothered to have a conference this past year. Not only did we not get a new Elder Scrolls game, we got further pimping out of Skyrim. At this point, we're left sitting here twiddling our thumbs going, you guys know this game came out in 2011, correct? You guys know we're very eager for the next one. Well, as of this recording, it seems like Bethesda has not even started working on the next Elder Scrolls game. So I thought I'd give you some suggestions. Here are 10 RPGs to play while waiting for Bethesda to start developing the next Elder Scrolls. First, some ground rules. These games are in no particular order. This is not a top 10 list or anything like that, and there are plenty of other great RPGs that are not going to be on this list. If I listed every single good one, we'd be here all day. Furthermore, my focus on this list is on 2 things. One is older RPGs that I feel like flew under the radar. Games that I believe are very good and often underrated and overlooked. The other is older games from series that you might be familiar with that didn't get really popular until after these games came out. So a lot of people might have missed these classics. With that in mind, let us begin. Let's start this list off right. Here is Legend of Legaia for the original PlayStation. This is a fairly typical Japanese role-playing game, which means the whole 9 yards. You're getting your random battles, your turn-based battle system, your anime-inspired characters, the whole 9 yards. And the usual things that come with this are here as well. This has a great story with an interesting setting, well-developed and likable characters, and a beautiful soundtrack. In most ways, this is just a fairly standard, if very well made, Japanese role-playing game. But there is one thing that sets Legend of Legaia apart from the rest of the Japanese RPGs, and that is its battle system. This battle system, I would say, is based largely around fighting game mechanics. You have inputs that equate to high and low kicks and punches, and you combine them into different high and low kicks and punches to pull off different special moves, just like you do in various fighting games. This really gives the battle system a unique feel and really lifts this RPG from being something very good to being something truly special. Graphically, this is not much to look at, but it is a PlayStation 1 fully 3D RPG. What do you expect? As long as you can push past that, you're golden. Unfortunately, this game is not on the PlayStation Network or anything like that, so you'll probably have to find an original copy, and I can't tell you off the top of my head exactly how much that's going to set you back. But this is a very good game if you're able to do that. I would highly recommend checking this one out. Secret of Evermore. If you have ever played Secret of Mana, you should be right at home with this game because the two are pretty similar. In fact, Secret of Evermore was once blamed for Seiken Densetsu 3 not coming to the United States. This has a lot to do with why this game is underrated and overlooked. The game itself is actually pretty darn good. What you'll find in here is a simple but fun action combat system and a world with wildly varying locations that you visit as you travel throughout it. There are fun and interesting characters and a cool story. If you're a fan of B movies, then you are sure to get a kick out of all the references to fake B movies that this game throws at you. It definitely has a unique sense of humor. But that's not all you should look out for when you play this game, however. This game has a wonderful soundtrack composed by a very young, fresh out of college Jeremy Soule, who you will recognize if you've ever played an Elder Scrolls game because he has done the last 3 games. He also scored Knights of the Old Republic. This guy is the American Nobuo Uematsu, and I'm not sure if I can give him much higher praise than that. Unfortunately, I don't believe this has ever been released on the Nintendo eShop or anything like that. It is not on the Virtual Console to my knowledge, so you'll have to find some other way of playing this. But take my word for it when I say this, this one is worth your time. It is a very, very good action role-playing game. I would recommend checking this one out. It's not going to absolutely blow your mind quite like Secret of Mana did, but it does have a lot to offer. Also, check out the dog, because each different unique world that you visit in this has a different transformation for him. So look for his different forms. It's actually really, really cool to see. Fallout 1. Now, I can hear some of you crying foul from a mile away. Fallout's a really, really popular RPG series, you say. And you're right. It is. It got immensely more popular with Bethesda's Fallout 3, which is an amazing game in its own right. But I have talked to many a fan of Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas who has never actually gone back and played the original game, or its sequel, Fallout 2. And to me, this is an absolute shame, because Fallout and Fallout 2 are both absolutely wonderful games. Every single thing that you love about Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, from the interesting story, to the fascinating characters, to the endlessly explorable 1950s retro future setting, to the post-apocalyptic world and the foreboding atmosphere. It's all here in this game. If you have played Fallout 3 and you have played Fallout New Vegas and you enjoyed them both, there's a very, very good chance that you're going to like this one too. It just plays different. Where those were first-person role-playing games, this is much more turn-based from an isometric view, where every single move you make costs points, and when your points run out, your turn ends, and you have to let the enemies take a turn. And you go back and forth until battles are over. This works very well for this game. Maybe it's not the most engaging thing in the world, but beyond that, there is plenty to love here about this game. Like I said, everything you loved about Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas is present here. This is definitely one that Fallout fans should go back and play if you haven't. You're in for a real treat. You can pick this one up on Good Old Games for $9.99, and it is worth every single penny. You can also download a mod for it that lets you play in high-resolution modes with widescreen support. Summoner. Now this is an interesting game. Summoner was a launch RPG for the PlayStation 2, and it was a console exclusive. But what makes it really interesting is that this is basically a fully 3D version of what is known as the CRPG. So if you have played something like Baldur's Gate or Icewind Dale, then you kind of know what to expect going into Summoner. But let me say again, this was launched as a console exclusive for the Sony PlayStation 2. Isn't that kind of weird and out there to have a CRPG as a console exclusive. Now, it eventually did come to PC, and this is the PC version that you're looking at right here. People felt it was more at home on the PC than it was on the PlayStation 2. Regardless, this really isn't a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. It's not as good as something like Baldur's Gate or Icewind Dale, but if you love good world building and a lot of in-depth lore, then this game will be a treat for you because you will get plenty of that here. If you're more into the combat side of things, maybe this isn't the style of RPG for you, because it takes a relatively hands-off approach as far as combat is concerned, but it isn't a bad game at all. Aside from the PlayStation 2, you can get this on GOG for $5.99, and it's well worth it at this price. The game runs at a standard resolution of 1024 by 768, but it is not that difficult to force it to run in higher resolution modes, which is exactly what I have done here to record this gameplay, and I would recommend you do the exact same thing if you decide to pick this one up. It really does help it fit your more modern screen better. I have it running in 1920 by 1080. But I stress again, this is for those of you that love in-depth lore and good world building in your RPGs. If you're looking for great combat, this might not be the one for you. Lost Odyssey. This was an Xbox 360 exclusive Japanese role-playing game from a fairly new developer called Mistwalker. Prior to this, they only had one game, and it was called Blue Dragon. This game is widely considered to be the better of the two. Mistwalker Studio is the studio that Hironobu Sakaguchi formed after he left Square, so he was in charge of this project. Furthermore, Nobuo Uematsu provided the music for this particular game, so you know this game was in good hands from the very beginning, and all the staples of the very good high-end Japanese role-playing game are here. It's gorgeous to look at, even if it's a little bit dated on the technical side by now. The art is wonderful. The music is wonderful as well, of course. The story is interesting. The characters and the setting are all great. Everything you love about Japanese role-playing games is here in this game. This is the game that I wish Final Fantasy XIII had been. I love this game quite a bit, and would highly recommend picking it up if you like Japanese RPGs. The one thing that really stands out about it amongst other Japanese RPGs is the ring system. The ring system has a ring appear on screen, and another ring gets smaller and smaller as you're about to carry out your attack in battle. You hold down the trigger button and let it go when the outer ring closes perfectly in on the inner ring, and it will do more damage. You can download this game off of the Xbox Live Marketplace, and it costs $24.99. That is a fair bit for an older game, but keep in mind just how much game you're getting here. This was a 3 DVD game upon release, so there is plenty of content here for you to play through. You're getting a lot of bang for your buck with this one, and if you love Final Fantasy, especially classic Final Fantasy, you're probably going to like this one too. Ultima Underworld. This is a first-person 3D role-playing game set in the Ultima universe and the Stygian Abyss in specific, and it was released in 1992. This predates even Wolfenstein 3D, and at the time it was a very, very impressive piece of tech. Today, while the world itself kind of all blends together, there's still a lot to like here. The combat can be pretty fun, and the world is full of interesting characters, plenty of lore and story and world building, tons of civilizations to meet up with, and all kinds of in-depth politics. There's really a lot of in-depth storytelling to be held in this game. It really does not play like any of the rest of the Ultima series except for Ultima Underworld 2, its direct sequel. From a historical standpoint, this is probably the most important game on this list, and it is widely hailed by fans of classic PC RPGs as one of the single most important video games ever made. And it's for a damn good reason. But it's not just that it's an important game to gaming history, it's that it was also a very, very well made one. It wasn't just an impressive piece of tech at the time. Everything you love about those classic RPGs with the world building and the storytelling and all the character interactions and player choice and everything that you love about all that kind of stuff, it's all present in this game, and it's all very well done here. I would highly recommend playing this game if you enjoy this classic style of RPGs, and you can get Ultima Underworld and Ultima Underworld 2 together in one package on Good Old Games for a whole $5.99. At that low of a price for two classic RPGs, what do you have to lose? Check this one out. I highly recommend it. The Ultimate series is one of the reasons that I built my 486 in the first place. Wild Arms, released at the end of 1996, this is a very early example of a Japanese RPG on the PlayStation 1, a genre that the PlayStation 1 would go on to become very well known for. And this is a good one. This mixes traditional Japanese RPG elements such as random encounters and turn-based battle systems, overworlds, and dungeons, with a little bit of Zelda-style puzzle solving where you use different items that you gather over your course of your journey to solve different puzzles in the various dungeons in this game. The entire thing has a very Western vibe to it that is really cool and goes along well with the name. The music will all give you a Western vibe, and it's all well done and very beautiful. The story is interesting, and the world itself mixes in some steampunk elements as well as a little bit of sci-fi here and there to create something truly unique, something wholly its own. There's really nothing else quite like it except for the other games in the series, of course. And if you like traditional Japanese RPGs, you will certainly find a lot to like here. This has the great character story and setting that you expect from this type of game. You can get it on the PlayStation 3 version of the PlayStation Network store for the price of $5.99. And then you're getting a good amount of game for your buck. There's probably 40 to 50 hours of gameplay here, as well as side quests and the like that you can do over the course of your journey. There's plenty here to keep you Japanese RPG fans satisfied if you want to give this a shot. I would recommend it. Dark Cloud. This is another early PlayStation 2 role-playing game, and it mixes hack and slash action with world building to create a truly unique experience. What sets Dark Cloud apart isn't so much the story, where the story really isn't all that great, it's not that important here, it's the gameplay. When you're in the dungeon, it's a fairly standard hack and slash affair, but you do have to pay attention to the enemies and what they're doing. Otherwise, you will probably get your ass kicked. You cannot just mash the X button here and win. You have to fight conservatively in this game. You have to be strategic in this game. You also have to be aware of your weapon because it will wear down and it will break, which you really don't want to happen because this has a weapon building system where you will build your weapon up over time by installing upgrades in it and leveling it up and having it transform into a wide variety of other weapons. you actually can look up strategy guides and whatnot and plan out how you want to upgrade your various weapons as you play throughout this game. It really is a lot of fun. As for the world building portion of it, while you're in the dungeons, you collect these spheres that contain people in them, or buildings, or items within the world. You go back out into the empty lot where the town used to be, and you place all the components within it. You can actually converse with townsfolk, and they will have specific requests about where to place their house, and who to place it next, and what to do with it, and where to face it, and all kinds of stuff. And if you find the perfect way to rebuild each town, you get rewarded for it. It's actually a very, very fun and interesting mechanic. And as far as I have played, there's nothing else quite like Dark Cloud. I like this game a lot, and you can get it on the PlayStation 4 and play it in high definition for $14.99. It is awesome. I would recommend checking it out. The Elder Scrolls 2, Daggerfall. I can hear you crying foul yet again on this particular pick, but hold on. The Elder Scrolls did not start getting any mainstream attention really until the third entry, Morrowind, appeared on the Xbox. It really kind of blew up big time when Oblivion was released on the Xbox 360 and later on the PlayStation 3. And it went absolutely nuts with the release of Skyrim, which is by far the best-selling game in the series. Many fans who started with Morrowind, Oblivion, or Skyrim have not gone back and played The Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall, and I would highly recommend it. This game can keep you busy for the rest of your frickin' life if you let it. There is so much content packed into this game that the sheer size of the world just blows the rest of this series out of the water. None of them compare to how big Daggerfall is. That is its greatest strength and its greatest shortcoming, because there's so much to do, but there might be too much to do. Either way, this really is a stellar RPG, and if you've played The Elder Scrolls before, you know exactly what you're doing going in. Just expect more D&D rules than later on entries in the series have. And you should be right at home when you're playing this game. It really is a very, very well made RPG. And you can get it for free by buying any Bethesda game from Good Old Games. I mentioned Fallout 1 earlier in this review. If you go and purchase Fallout 1 on Good Old Games, you will get Daggerfall and Arena for free. Hard to see what's not to like about that, right? I mean, that is tons and tons of bang for your buck. And Daggerfall is a must-play for any Western RPG fan, in my opinion. If you like the Elder Scrolls series, you owe it to yourself to go back and play this game. Shin Megami Tensei Digital Devil Saga. Later on down the line with the release of Persona 3, Shin Megami Tensei would become a much more well-known property. When Digital Devil Saga was released, it was still a fairly niche RPG series. And in my opinion, this was one of the better releases in said series. Digital Devil Saga sees you in a post-apocalyptic, kind of cyberpunkish world called the Junkyard, where it constantly rains. So it's an interesting and beautiful setting that you're exploring. This, in typical Shin Megami Tensei fashion, does explore some very mature themes, including but not limited to war, tribalism, and cannibalism. If that last one bothers you, this one is not the game for you, because it is central to this game's plot. This has a darker, more mature story as you expect from this, but it does not have the demon collector. This is more of a straightforward, traditional Japanese RPG than the typical Shin Megami Tensei game is, which really makes it a great entry point for people into this series. Having said that, this game also will kick your teeth in, as is common with this series. It is difficult. It does have the battle mechanics where you can gain or lose turns depending upon what happens in battle, and these rules do apply to both you and the enemy, and it does make the game itself quite a bit more challenging as you're playing through it. The music is good, the art design is great, but keep in mind that this is only half of the story. This has a direct sequel that finishes the story. So if you get an unsatisfying ending, it's because it's not really the ending. Furthermore, if you don't get into the characters right away, stick with it for a while longer, because they all have events that trigger their more human personality as you play throughout it. You can get this on the European version of the PlayStation Store, and it costs $9.99 to do so. Unfortunately, it has not been released in the United States region, and I couldn't tell you prices of a PlayStation 2 copy, although that is what you're looking at here. This is a very good Japanese RPG for anyone willing to deal with the fact that it can be tough as nails. There you have it. That's my list. If I introduced you to a game that you hadn't heard of before, let me know down below. If I convinced you to pick up an RPG that you knew about but hadn't touched yet, let me know down below. Beyond that, if you have played any of these games or anything like that, what did you think of my picks? What picks would you throw out there? Do you agree or disagree with any of my picks? Let me know down in the comments section below. Hopefully Bethesda will start the next Elder Scrolls soon. Until then, I hope I was able to introduce you to something that you haven't played before and convinced you to give it a try. There's plenty of great games on this list, and I'm sure at least some of you have not played something listed here. I hope I was able to not only give you an entertaining video, but I hope I was able to provide you with something new to check out and play. Of course, there are many, many more great RPGs that I didn't list here. There are plenty of others that I considered putting on this list and chose not to because the list was already long enough as is, and this video would be even longer than it currently is if I listed every single game that I wanted to put on this list. There would also be several entries from various series. I mean, we're talking like probably would have put Ultima 7 on this list as well. Probably would have put some other Shin Megami Tensei game on this list. Bunch of other things. I mean, there's plenty of good stuff here. Also, I probably butchered a bunch of Japanese names in this video, and I'm sorry for that. I suck at that kind of thing. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please comment down below. Let me know what you think. Please like and share this video. It would help me out a lot. Until next time, guys, thank you everybody for watching, and goodbye.